Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. On Thursday, Poland's EU Commissioner-designate for Budget, Anti-Fraud and Public Administration has had his candidacy approved by an evaluation committee in Brussels. An EU source has told the Polish press agency. In late November, his position will be voted on by Parliament. What does this mean for Poland's influence in the European Union, and what do we expect his priorities to be, assuming that he is confirmed? Well, to explore this, we're joined by Karolina Borońska Hryniewiecka, Associate Research Fellow at University of Sorbonne in Paris.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to TVP World. Thank you for taking the time.
Pleasure, as always.
Thank you. So there are rumours, of course, and they are only rumours at this stage, that Sarafin is almost certain to be confirmed in his position. Have you heard those?
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, I personally congratulated him on Twitter, on X yesterday. And I think this is already pretty much official because the committee that was conducting the hearing, the Budget Committee and the Budgetary Control Committee, after the hearing had an evaluation meeting in camera, which means it was a closed meeting without media, of course, and MEPs, so members of the committee, members of the European Parliament, in that smaller venue, decided that this is a good candidate and that he will be approved. So I think we can all congratulate Poland and also congratulate Mr. Serafin, who's an excellent expert. Of course, we have to wait, as you have mentioned very rightly so, we have to wait for the collective vote of the European Parliament on the whole College of Commissioners, because please remind us, everybody, that the European Parliament votes on the college, the 26 commissioners, plus von der Leyen already has received the support. They don't vote on single individual commissioners, but the committees that have conducted the hearings and will conduct the hearings of the remaining candidates, they do decide among themselves on the basis of this very long process of, revision and grilling and looking at the conflict of interest. So to summarize, I think we're very safe that Sarafin will be approved by the whole college. For the moment, he's approved by the committee. This is just the great news because we will have a very important portfolio in the European Union.
Indeed, it is great news, and we look forward to seeing that happen. But you mentioned his portfolio. What is it? And what are the most important issues in that portfolio?
Well, of course. Well, first of all, we have to say that Sarafin will take care of the so-called meta portfolio. This is a budget, EU budget. This is one of the priority issues in his realm of competences. The second one will be anti-fraud policy. So basically taking care of how the money is spent and eradicating corruption in terms of using EU funds. And the third issue, which is very important as well, is improving performance of EU public administration. So the way institutions and the Commission in general, the most important executive institution work. So coming back to the budget, it is very important to remember that the EU budget is only around 1% of European Union national domestic product. So this is a very small budget, and Sarafin has said that his priority will be to increase this budget. And there are two options. So one option is to either convince member states that they have to increase their contributions to the budget. And nobody is obviously interested in doing that. But the second very important possibility, which will require also political will, is to convince member states, convince the Council to create new new own resources of the European Union. And this is a very hot topic. This will be on the agenda for the next months or years. This is basically a basket of possibilities to generate EU supranational income by, for example, taxing corporations, multinationals, by using the emission trading scheme, so CO2 emission trading scheme, to contribute to the EU budget as well. And also there is another, we would say, levy, which is called border adjustment mechanism, also taxing external exporters to the European Union on CO2. And this can really generate substantial amount of money for the European Union. Now, this is not for the Commission to decide about it. This is for the member states. The Commission can propose, the Commission can facilitate, but these are member states and their political will to go ahead with these solutions.
Understood. Okay, so two questions arise from what you've just said. The first is, why do you believe that Sarafin wishes to raise the EU budget? What is the extra going to be used for, if and when it happens?
Well, this is the first thing is an obvious question. We are living in times of war. And we hear from many directions and from many experts that EU defense spending and our capabilities to defend ourselves are not sufficient. That's the first thing. So we have to boost up defense industry, and we have to also create funds to finance our own defense. This has not happened yet, as defense is a competence of member states. But everybody realizes now that facing a threat of Russia, which is sending North Korean troops to fight in Ukraine, it's a huge geopolitical threat, and European Union has to be ready to defend itself in the context of new Trump administration. Remember, Trump wants to withdraw its, maybe not completely, of course, but he wants to reduce significantly the US involvement, military and defense involvement in Europe. So we really need to think about our strategic autonomy. So the money is needed. The money is also needed for the European Union to become more competitive. What does that mean? Well, we are lagging behind China, we're lagging behind the US. There is also a third very important issue, which is climate transformation, energy transformation, new investments in green technologies. All of that requires more funds, and member states have to be aware of it. And Sarafin yesterday very, very rightly so explained that the budget has to unite member states and not divide them. They have to create common resources, use them in a common way to address these huge challenges.
Right. Well, let's start with the first of the reasons that you shared, that of defence. There is a new role, is there not, a defence commissioner? I mean, you know, the EU has been talking about defence for many years. Why has this role never existed before?
Well, first of all, it never existed because defence is one of the most core strategic sovereignty issues of member states, right? And what does sovereignty mean? This is a kind of false concept, because sovereignty means that we as states decide ourselves. And we know that in the current geopolitical situation, single member state is not able to cope with many transnational issues and transnational threats. So we need to supranationalize. We need to make the EU defense approach overnational, we would say. We say supranational. And that's why this process of thinking about it has been accelerated by the conflict, of course. So the threats, external threats, made us, as the European Union, think about our defense. And Macron has been talking about it for a long time. He was talking about European army. You know, this is a very complex issue, because on one hand we have NATO, but on the other hand, NATO is not an EU-centered project. It's a transatlantic project which functions very well, but with Trump in power at the moment, who wants to put pressure on Europe to, beef up its defense spending, this is a real requirement of the time. And we have to wake up. I think this is already very late, but it's good that at least all the commissioners are on the same page, because it's not only Serafin, it's also the others that you mentioned, Kubilius, Defense Commissioner, Dombrovskis, Šefčovič. They all are responsible for some sort of economic portfolios, and they all know that defense, industry defense spending, our collective security is a top priority. And but again, let me stress that this is not up to the Commission. This is up to member states. They cannot have a cake and eat it. They cannot feel safe and not contribute more money to the defense budget. And Poland is doing very well in this sense, because Poland's GDP spending on defense is impressive, right? There are other countries that have to pick up on that. For example, France as well.
Understood. Yes, lots of tensions there, and we look forward to following closely what Mr. Sarafin does in his new role. Thank you very much for coming along and sharing your analysis with our audience. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. And that's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Don't go away. Lots more coming up. Goodbye from me.